I want to just give a little bit of context before we start asking some questions of the panel. And again, as I understand it, Mike has been very clear. We really want to try and answer what you want to know instead of us kind of preaching at you this long list of questions that I have in front of me. So please feel free to put a question together. Mike will take a look at them and make sure I can read them with my glasses on and everything, and we'll try and get everything answered. So I just wanted to give a quick little context for the whole discussion today, because I think everybody says, oh yeah, this is a big deal, but how did we get here? Where did we come from? Maybe it's a little known fact, because I didn't know it until my staff had put it together, but Ohio was at one point in our history the leading producer of oil in the world. Yes, in the world. It goes back to the late 1800s. John D. Rockefeller put together Standard Oil. It was based out of Cleveland. And the oil finds here in Ohio helped propel our industrial revolution and us becoming a heavy industry state, because you had access to what at the time was an inexpensive resource that powered industry. And so this region, when you think about Michigan and Indiana being manufacturing type states as well, that's where we came from. And what was interesting, obviously what happened over time was the rest of the world started drilling and coming up with all sorts of different oil finds that were cheaper to extract and more plentiful. And so Ohio kind of fell by the wayside. But now we're back, and we're back in a very major type of way with hydraulic fracturing and with what we're doing in Marcellus and Utica, obviously. And when this whole thing kind of started, and of course Ohio wasn't the first state to do it, the chamber early on said, you know, we need to kind of look at this industry as it started to get put together. And so there was a early on shale coalition, and back in late 2010 and into 2011, we actually did a study about what the impact of shale could mean in the state of Ohio. And I think it's always interesting to look back a little bit, because we had major findings, great research. In fact, I think a couple of the researchers that actually worked on this are part of our audience today, so welcome back. And they took a look and said, what could this mean for Ohio as we looked out from 2011, looking out through 2014? And what they projected was that we'd create 65,000 new jobs by 2014, and $9.6 billion would be invested in the state of Ohio. Well, now we fast forward to 2017, and we certainly have surpassed those numbers in a very, very big way. You heard the Lieutenant Governor mention the U.S. Chamber study. She, of course, took away my thunder once again, because that was part of my presentation. They mentioned the U.S. Chamber study. Thank you, Mary. But it's pretty interesting, and as she mentioned, it's kind of a negative report in the context of, you know, what would happen if you banned fracking tomorrow? And as we know, there are a lot of efforts out there to prohibit fracking. You see it at a local level, statewide levels, even on the national level. And a very insightful study to say, well, here's what would happen. And what's interesting is if that happened, Ohio is one of 4 states that would be impacted the most. The other ones are Texas, Colorado, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. So we're one of the 4 states that would take the biggest hits. And those hits would be comprised of, in the next 5 years, almost 400,000 lost jobs. That's sobering numbers when you think about the impact. So we know it's important. We kind of thought it was important. The studies have shown it's important. And so we want to make sure we understand what's going on today and what might be going on in the near future in this whole field. So Thank all the panelists again for being here. I will repeat one more time, unless you want to hear me continue to ask questions, which is never really pretty. You should go ahead and write some questions down and make sure you get the answers you want to hear.